Después de tantas trabas y momentos difíciles, ¿qué sienten hoy al llegar al cierre de su casa?
No, solo me queda decir que estoy muy feliz.
Yo tengo muchos sentimientos encontrados. Es un sentimiento de orgullo, agradecimiento, una emoción muy grande porque tener hoy mi casa en este país, al lugar donde vine hace 2 años, cruzando frontera, pensando de que era un sueño imposible, y yo y mi esposo, tener una casa, algo que sea de nosotros, es lo mejor del mundo.
Decided they would rather have an RC and a moon pie. They sold it for $5 to go get a snack. We don't know if it's Calusa Indian or Seminole. Calusas are no longer with us. They were the Shoal Indians, and they pretty much were decimated by disease.
my 13th birthday, my dad sent me to Heritage Home, which was a boys' home for troubled youth. Most of the kids that were there had already had skirmishes with the law. Two of the boys that were there, their mom dropped them off on the doorstep when they were 6 and 7 and said, "I'll be right back," and never came back. So it was owned by a church, funded by a church. Overall, a great experience. Made me a man, 13 years old, dropped off in Pensacola, Florida. And it was a character shaping time in my life, 13 to 15, 2 years. In that time, though, I got my DJ license and started working as a DJ, and maybe most importantly realized that I didn't need to be tucked in every night. And I love my parents, and my parents provided a lot to me. And one of the biggest things that my dad did for me was to send me there. And I'll tell everybody the reason that I was sent there was because in 7th grade, I had built a little scheme where I was breaking tea bags open and mixing it with catnip, and I was selling it as pot at school.
Oh, okay.
And believe it or not, the kid would come back and tell everybody how high he got on everything and wanted to buy more. So I was selling him this, and he called the house one morning, and my stepmom picked up the phone upstairs. He said, "Hey, can you bring me some pot today?"
Oh, no.
And so that was a problem.
Yeah.
And so my dad pulled me out of public school, didn't even believe the gimmick that I told him, pulled me out of public school, put me into a Christian school. And when I got into the Christian school, the principal's son there taught me how to shoplift. And so I would, just for sport, stealing a candy bar here and there. Anyways, one day got caught shoplifting, and my dad, I don't know, he just said, "I'm not going to lose you.
Right.
I don't want you to grow up to be a criminal." And so instead of anything else, he shipped me off to Heritage Home. And he had entertained actually sending me to like Air Force Academy prep.
Right.
And it was so expensive that I ended up at Heritage Home. But anyways, I always look at that and say, well, I was able to find out at that point that I didn't need to be tucked in. I didn't need to be coddled by my parents. I was my own man. And I ended up leaving home at 16 after coming home from that, and then decided to go off on my own.
Después de tantas trabas y momentos difíciles, ¿qué sienten hoy al llegar al cierre de su casa?
No, solo me queda decir que estoy muy feliz.
Yo tengo muchos sentimientos encontrados. Es un sentimiento de orgullo, agradecimiento, una emoción muy grande porque tener hoy mi casa en este país, al lugar donde vine hace 2 años, cruzando frontera, pensando de que era un sueño imposible, y yo y mi esposo, tener una casa, algo que sea de nosotros, es lo mejor del mundo.
decided they would rather have an RC and a moon pie. They sold it for $5 to go get a snack. We don't know if it's Colusa Indian or Seminole. Calusas are no longer with us. They were the Shaw Indians, and they pretty much were decimated by disease.
On my 13th birthday, my dad sent me to Heritage Home, which was a boys' home for troubled youth. Most of the kids that were there had already had skirmishes with the law. Two of the boys that were there, their mom dropped them off on the doorstep when they were 6 and 7 and said, "I'll be right back," and never came back. So it was owned by a church, funded by a church. Overall, a great experience. Made me a man. Okay, 13 years old, dropped off in Pensacola, Florida, and it was a character shaping time in my life. 13 to 15, 2 years. In that time, though, I got my DJ license and started working as a DJ, and maybe most importantly realized that I didn't need to be tucked in every night. And I love my parents, and my parents provided a lot to me. And one of the biggest things that my dad did for me was to send me there. And I'll tell everybody the reason that I was sent there was because in 7th grade, I had built a little scheme where I was breaking tea bags open and mixing it with catnip, and I was selling it as pot at school.
Oh, okay.
And believe it or not, the kid would come back and tell everybody how high he got on everything and wanted to buy more. So I was selling him this, and he called the house one morning, and my stepmom picked up the phone upstairs. He said, "Hey, can you bring me some pot today?"
Oh, no.
And so that was a problem.
Yeah.
And so my dad pulled me out of public school, didn't even believe the gimmick that I told him, pulled me out of public school, put me into a Christian school. And when I got into the Christian school, the principal's son there taught me how to shoplift. And so I would, just for sport, stealing a candy bar here and there. Anyways, one day got caught shoplifting, and my dad, I don't know, he just said, "I'm not going to lose you.
Right.
I don't want you to grow up to be a criminal." And so instead of anything else, he shipped me off to Heritage Home. And he had entertained actually sending me to like Air Force Academy prep.
Right.
And it was so expensive. that I ended up at Heritage Home. But anyways, I always look at that and say, well, I was able to find out at that point that I didn't need to be tucked in. I didn't need to be coddled by my parents. I was my own man. And I ended up leaving home at 16 after coming home from that, and then decided to go off on my own. my business has changed. I've been doing title now for 3 years. I sold real estate and did mortgages before that.
Right.
The business changed, and I bought these microphones and this equipment because I felt like I wanted to not talk about title insurance because it's a short episode, but talk about other people that are around, characters that are in my orbit, that are in my story, that drive me crazy or that help me to, live my life. And that's why I wanted to do it, though, is because when you can amplify someone else's message, you're coming from a place of contribution.
Mm-hmm.
You're watering, everyone's grass, so to speak, when you do that. And the view is just awesome from this is one little life that we're getting to live, and it goes by in such a blink. So let's have some fun. I'd like to share with you a quote that I heard, and I've used it a lot this week, so I thought I'd share it with you. Your death will come on an ordinary day among unfinished business, and the world will move on. So live a little. My name is Adam, and I do Tidal. They call me Tidal Adam, and I love it. I'm a lucky guy. Have a great night. My background with music, mom was definitely Motown.
Okay.
Mom was 50s, 60s, doo-wop, the Motown. And my dad was much more rock and roll with a lean towards country western because his dad was into performing that kind of genre. And I think it provided for a really great mix as a kid growing up. And I believe that from one of my youngest memories would be my parents splitting up.
Okay.
They split up very young, when I was very young. And I can remember hearing Borderline by Madonna. Okay. So we'll go back into the 80s. This would be like 84.
Love Madonna.
And I would have been a little tyke, not far out of diapers even. But I, at that point, remember tying that song, whatever that message meant, to an emotion.
Right.
And throughout my life, this is what I've done. I've said, this is the song that defines my 9th grade year. This is the song that defines, when I got my first job. This is the song that defines my first heartbreak, whatever it might be. And music is such a special,
it really is
such a special language. And it starts at home, and it starts with your family and your parents. And, we've got Rosie, who was at your show the other night, and we try to expose her to a lot of music because you never know what you would
just
click.
never know. Yeah.
We've got a piano in the home, which Juliet has played for years. And I tinker on it a little bit. I play guitar.
That's right.
Music in the home is so important.
So important.
It's really crazy because, and I'm not going to, I promised I would not go on a dirt road about this today, but I am just going to say it's kind of like non-licensed clerical employees handling title insurance. And you go, well, do they have to have a license to do title insurance? No, they don't. There's people that are in this business that don't have a license, and they're working under the supervision of a licensed professional. But I started asking those questions why you don't have the license if it's available. So I'm not going to go on that today, but that's going to come in a future episode.
Después de tantas trabas y momentos difíciles, ¿qué sienten hoy al llegar al cierre de su casa?
No, solo me queda decir que estoy muy feliz.
Yo tengo muchos sentimientos encontrados. Es un sentimiento de orgullo, agradecimiento, una emoción muy grande porque tener hoy mi casa en este país, al lugar donde vine hace 2 años, cruzando frontera, pensando de que era un sueño imposible, y yo y mi esposo, tener una casa, algo que sea de nosotros, es lo mejor del mundo.
Decided they would rather have an RC and a moon pie than
And they say, tell us about the area. And you say, oh, and by the way, I'm from here.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you all about it.
Yes, they do. So I get a lot of people. I would say yes from my social media, from Facebook primarily. I'd say maybe they see me also on Zillow, maybe my signs, maybe they're driving to the property, they see my sign and they call me.
So, and you put signs up on vacant land listings. You do
I
go out there and do
on
that. Yeah.
everything. Yep.
I know a lot of real estate agents where they don't do that. And some of them will say that someone will steal my sign. Some people say, I don't need a sign. Some people would say the seller doesn't even know whether I put one up or not. But the truth is that every time you take one of those listings, you've got now license for a small billboard with your name and your contact information all around the city. And I think that is, if I was listing vacant land as a real estate agent, I would have a sign on it. If I was listing any property, I would have some kind of a sign on it. And because the MLS is important, and I think the MLS probably sells most of the real estate by and large, but there's nothing like driving by
Yeah.
and seeing a sign and picking up the phone and calling. Now, on your signs, are you incorporating any kind of QR codes? Any
I'm
kind
not,
of
no. It
So
just,
just
has my name,
call me.
my face, Epic,
Yeah.
and for sale.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know that a lot of people are going down the QR code route,
Yeah.
and we found that I don't know if it was COVID that unlocked this or not, but people don't like to talk on the phone, and they don't like to, they would much rather text, and so sometimes with a QR code they feel safer to check out more details on the property because they don't have to call you and they don't have to worry about whether they're going to be asked for their email. So
Yeah.
I love that, and I love that you do the signs. You ever have any problems with people coming and taking your signs, competitors
So,
yanking them?
No, I've never had anybody steal a sign, but I have had the county mow the yard,
Yeah.
like the outside, and destroy my sign
Yeah.
one time. Yeah, when I went after it sold and I went back to pick it up, I seen it and I was like, oh my goodness. They just mowed right over
Yeah.
my sign.
Yeah, no, that happens. But they're not giving you a hard time about it. They just don't really
No.
worry about picking it up and putting it back up for
Yeah.
you. Yeah. Hendry County's been in the news recently, and one of the things I wanted to ask you about is this Everglades Airport project update. Now, this is I thought that this was something new. It turns out that they've been talking about this for over 15 years. It's a proposed $300 million cargo airport. It's near Clewiston. It's promised to bring in 1,400 high-skilled jobs or like high-value jobs, specifically to bring in shipments of produce and flowers. And the community itself seems to be torn on it, where half of the people that I read interviews on said they've been talking about this so long it's never going to happen. And then there's a big population out in Clewiston that said, we moved here specifically. We moved in from West Palm Beach. We moved in from Miami, wherever, specifically to get away from that. We don't want this project here. And so I don't know if it's the fact that they need $90 million to get started on a $300 million project, or if it's a matter of, political red tape. But just as somebody who's grown up there in that area, and I'm sure that you've heard over the years about it, maybe you heard your parents talking about it. Have you heard anything from people living out there as far as their sentiment on it? Is it something that's actually going to happen, or is it becoming kind of a myth?
So something that I will say I've noticed, that often they'll say like, oh, this is coming soon or that is coming soon. And years go by, 5 years go by, and we're not seeing these things happen. And I think it's maybe a mixture of all the things you're saying. It could be that plus more things that we don't even know about, maybe more issues that they ran into and they don't know, how to go about that or what's the next step. I don't know if that's coming. I've heard a lot of things, but I honestly, I don't know if it's coming or not.
If we bring in an airport and we bring in all of these loads of produce and flowers, well, I start thinking, okay, so we need trucks. Because we need to move that stuff. And then if we need trucks, then we need roads. If we need new roads, and all of that is really great, especially when you think about creating jobs, work for people, us having a nicer place to live. But the truth is that this comes with a lot of disruption to what is a sensitive ecological area. We're built on a huge aquifer. And so that's one of those things where I wonder if there's more, like you said, maybe it's a potpourri of all kinds of different issues that are holding it up. But the last time I was out in Clewiston for a closing, I was there downtown Clewiston, and I absolutely love it out there. I don't know how you could have a big boom like that in that area without the infrastructure built, but I know that there is an appetite for developers to destroy everything green and to knock down anything that is available to be cleared to start building on. And now we have this, the East Coast meets the West, and we're getting squeezed in the middle of the state. If you haven't had a chance to go out to Clewiston, to LaBelle, to all of these beautiful green areas out east, go east, guys. I'm telling you, it's worth the drive. It's a beautiful straight shot from Fort Myers. And what would you say from here to LaBelle is an hour and 20?
LaBelle, I think I drove like 40 minutes.
Okay, yeah. It's a really great drive. It's a nice weekend drive also. And I've went a couple of different ways, but I've been to Clewiston now. Usually I would take 80 straight out. I love making that drive because you get to see a different side of Florida than what everyone thinks about. Everyone thinks about palm trees and sand, and that's a beautiful part of Florida, but there's so much more, specifically with the agricultural, specific to green spaces that you don't see here in this concrete jungle. So also in LaBelle, just worth noting, mosquito control's working out there. They've got their spraying aerial adult mosquito larvae underway, and the ranchettes in LaBelle. I wanted to ask you a little bit, Andrea, about the impact fee. And this was the impact fee change that came into effect in February of this year. $6,700 per home built in unincorporated Hendry County. Experts say it's $80 to $100 in the monthly mortgage payment. And the critics say that it's not warranted because there's only 200 homes per year being built in that area, and it's not a big enough impact to justify an impact fee. Tell me a little bit. You said that there is a slight discount if the home is a manufactured home, but it's not a big discount.
Probably like $300 less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, this is something that you're not getting around. There's no getting around an impact fee.
Yeah, no, there's not.
Yeah.
You have to pay it because you have to pay it.
Yeah. Now, from a recording standpoint, as a title insurance agent, most of what we do is e-record. So we're not really interfacing as much with the county, the recorder's office, but I have dealt with Hendry County, and they are very nice. And I would be curious to know what that situation looks like when you're, from a hyper local standpoint, because I don't deal with them. Every county and municipality in this area has their own bugaboos.
I don't really know yet how difficult it's going to be. I'm sure, building anywhere is a difficult process.
Do you feel like right now, at least with being heavy in the land market, do you feel like most of the people that you're working with are purchasing land to build something on?
Yes.
So they're not speculating and just buying it to flip the land or to sell it down. They're buying it with the intention of, we want to grow, we want to build something.
I think the majority of them, yes. But I know, here and there's going to be some that are buying just to invest and resell it later on.
Got it. Very good. I want to just kind of switch gears, though, and stay in your market there. And I just say Hendry Glades. So we're talking, but I want to make sure to mention that Andrea is a Florida licensed realtor, and I'm a Florida licensed title insurance agent. So while we go hyper local, don't forget, if it's in the state of Florida and it's real estate, either of us can help you, and we would love to have the opportunity. Let's, though, shift to that. Let's talk a little bit first about the rental market. And we just took some data on Hendry and Glades, and we said right now there's 41 homes for rent, 3-2. These are the averages, 3-2, 1,462 square feet for $2,100. So for me, I thought, wow, that sounds high. And that's because I live here much closer to 75 and 41. And that I was expecting the rents to be much lower. But it's 2025, not 1995. Stuff costs money, right? Okay. So that said, there's 41 homes to rent. Does that 2,100 sound like what you would think would be out there? A 3-2 for 2,100, something like that?
I would say so because I will tell you, before I became a licensed real estate agent, I used to work for a builder, and he had a lot of homes for rent. And the most expensive one, also a 3-2, probably wouldn't believe it, but it was $2,900 a month.
Wow.
And people would pay it.
Yeah. New construction, 3-2.
In LaBelle, in new construction.
Wow.
But that's gone down from then.
Yeah, because I look at last year in Lehigh, where I live. I know that the rents we're getting for a 3-2, they were getting to be more like, $2,450. It was really, $2,500. And I thought that was high. And it's come down a lot there as well. So not that I'm wishing for it to come down for anyone's detriment, but it's certainly worth mentioning. Now, in that same market, there's now 308 homes for sale. And on those same averages, we've got a 3-2, 1,547 square feet, $337,000, and 111 days on the market. And we've seen this path when we look back over the last 10 years or so, 15 years even. But in the last 5 years, there's been 370 to 390 homes per month. This is in the last year, rather, Andrea. Every month, there's been between 370 and 390 homes for sale in that geographic area. And it just seems like when one sells, another one immediately lists. And so that inventory never really shrinks down. But when I tell you that, you can get a 3-2 for 337, how does that sound? Does That
Sounds
sound
about
good, right?
Yeah.
Because I believe, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I believe a lot of the properties out there might be bigger than your standard 80 by 120 lot as well, right? So if you're paying 337, maybe you're getting a half acre lot, or a lot of them standard. I don't know. I feel like I've done a couple of them out there where they were more, where they were acreage. They were meets and bounds surveys that cost more
And
money.
you're talking about in LaBelle?
This would be just Hendry and Glades,
Oh, okay.
so
Because,
the whole area.
well, in Ventura, I don't know if I mentioned that. Like today, the lot that we closed today was 1.25 acres.
Right.
So they're much bigger in Ventura.
Yeah.
Rather, when you go to LaBelle, they're
Platted down. Yeah.
25.
Yep.
The small, maybe 0.23. Maybe if you're lucky, 0.3.
So, but you would say that it is much more likely, at least in the in the incorporated areas, that they're going to be on a standard lot for that 337.
Yeah.
And that's still a lot cheaper than the East Coast. It's still going to push people from West Palm over to you, but
Or Miami.
or Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I always really thought that there would be a softer spot there inland, and that, again, that I thought that those housing prices would be a little bit lower, but they're making more people and not more land. And so it's really interesting to see those numbers. And when I saw them, I thought, well, I want to double check that with you and see. So, what we're talking probably like $200 to $225 a square foot, roughly, for construction cost. It looks like. So, okay, well, that's a sign of a healthy market. Like I said, there's certainly opportunities, different options for people to choose from, and there's certainly a lot of vacant land out there if someone wants to build their own.
Yeah.
And I think that that's an option as well. But
One of the things that I want to stay in real estate, I want to stay in insurance, and if I ever add anything to my plate, it would be possibly GC license.
wow. Well, and they all go hand in hand so
Right.
well. I know a couple of really great realtors that did the GC, and it's kind of like you could be a mega real estate agent without going broker. And a lot of people always feel kind of like, well, I want to be broker. I want to be broker associate. I want to do this. But the reality is that some of that is for our ego, and some of it is for our sense of achievement and accomplishment. And it doesn't really have to do with, how good we are at what we do. It's really crazy because, and I'm not going to, I promised I would not go on a dirt road about this today, but I am just going to say it's kind of like non-licensed clerical employees handling title insurance. And you go, well, do they have to have a license to do title insurance? No, they don't. There's people that are in this business that don't have a license, and they're working under the supervision of a licensed professional. But I start asking those questions why you don't have the license if it's available. So I'm not going to go on that today, but that's going to come in a future episode. Let me ask you, though, you said that you could pursue that down the road. Do you think either way so far you would be interested in doing other real estate projects, regardless of if you were the GC or not? Do you have a kind of an appetite for that so far? Yeah. Awesome. I wish you luck with it, and I hope I hope it's ahead of schedule and under budget. I hope that if you decide to go down the GC route, that it's something that you really enjoy, because I know it's a lot of study.
Yeah.
A lot of responsibility. And I like the vibe that I'm getting from you so far, because I've worked with you now, and today's the first time I've met you face to face, but I like the vibe of somebody who said, went to college, got through college, applied, ate the fish and spit out the bones, applied the entrepreneurship piece of the schooling, working in insurance, working in real estate, working in development now. We're really getting this really nice rounded portfolio of talents, if you will, or skills. And I think it's going to really suit you well, because the market is shifting. And I talked about this with someone else recently, where the new thing is like infopreneurship. It's where you say like, yeah, I'm a realtor, but I'm not just a realtor, because I know about insurance too, and I can help you with building a home. And that, I think, you have to set yourself apart from every other realtor out there that really wants to do the same thing you're doing. And I don't worry about one of your competitors hearing a secret of what you're doing, because I've watched Tiger Woods hit a hole-in-one and it was amazing. But I can't do it because I'm not willing to go out there and try and fail and make the effort every day. So I always say into my competitors that watch this, hi, I'm glad you're here and thank you for joining. But I know that they won't turn on the microphone and start doing this. And so it's one of those things where I'm okay to share that with you. And I said I wouldn't gatekeep the process of of putting together a podcast. So
Yeah.
that said, I want to shift gears because I always want to talk about fraud. And I know that you're newer in the business, but you've been through enough now to realize it's not a matter of if you're going to get hit with fraud. It's a matter of when you're going to get hit by fraud. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. And I wanted to talk a little bit about it because the title industry in particular has a lot of responsibility when it comes to fraud, when it comes to protecting people in the deal, but a lot of responsibility falls on the real estate agent as well. And the truth is, they're starting with you before they start with us in almost every instance. This is just a quick snapshot from the new Florida Realtor magazine. This is Linda Hoyt. She's a broker associate for One Sotheby's International Realty in Fort Lauderdale. Just a quick snip. It's about a product called Forewarn. The other day, I received a call to list an acre of land in Parkland. The seller requested a CMA, details on compensation, and expressed an unusual urgency to move forward quickly. Red flag number 1. As a precaution, I ran his phone number through Forewarn, something I always do for non-referral clients, but no information was found. While it's not unheard of, it was red flag number 2. Throughout the day, we had multiple phone conversations, and later he agreed to list the land with me. When I requested his ID, since this was a land deal and we wouldn't meet in person, he sent both his and his wife's passports instead of a driver's license. Red flag number 3. As it seemed odd, I decided to dig further. I reverse searched his name in Forewarn and found the real property owner, whose address matched the records on BCPA. I immediately called him to verify, and he confirmed he was not selling his land. I then informed him about the impersonator and shared the details right away. The takeaway, always verify the identities of the people you're working with. Fraud is real. If you sense something is wrong, go with your gut, stay vigilant, and stay safe. And I thought that was a nice little article because Forewarn Safety app is free to Florida realtors.
Yes.
And a lot of real estate agents don't know about it. I think every single real estate agent, I don't care if you're 6'5", 300 pounds, or if you're, a small, or if you're Andrea, you need Forewarn. And I was just going to ask you, maybe, are you using that?
I am using Forewarn.
Talk about that a little bit, because like in this instance, she was able to compile red flags,
Yes.
but use Forewarn. And so are you using it? How do you use Forewarn?
I think I probably use it more than I should, but yes, I do use it a lot. I have looked up people that I think, like the red flags that you're saying.
Yep.
And I have had a couple people say they were sellers, but they really were not.
Now, you working specific in the land piece, would you say that the majority of the sellers that you work with out in your area live there, or are they out of area, New York, Canada, Germany? Like, is it normally someone local that says, hey, I want to meet with you?
For the sellers of the land that I have been listing lately, I think a lot of them are from Miami. Some have been out of state, but not that much. Usually when I had somebody, now that you say Canada, that reminds me of somebody that was actually a fraud one. She wasn't actually the seller.
Yep. And
And I asked for the ID, and she did send me the ID. And she was, I would say, smart, but not really, because I still caught on. And, I feel like as realtors, we kind of become FBI agents in a way, because I was able to, I did a lot of digging. I don't know how I ended up finding out, but I looked at the times it was previously listed. And she had previously listed with somebody else, another local realtor. And I called her and I asked her, hey, what happened with this? And she told me, yep, she had it written, fraud, on her file. Yep.
And that, unfortunately, that happens a lot. That's a red flag when it's a non-local seller of vacant land. It's a real challenge. Now, Lee County had a pilot with the recorder's office that anytime you transferred a deed in Lee County, you had to provide a driver's license for every party. So not just the people that signed the deed, but the buyers you had to provide as well. And that pilot ended on July 1st, but that was cutting down on a significant amount of fraud because it was just making everyone reveal themselves for the transaction. And a lot of times, in this instance that I give you from Linda Hoyt, she talks about they want to move fast. Their phone number's a burner. Because when you look it up on Forewarn, won't it tell you like number not found? If the number's not found,
No
it's a
search
Google Voice,
found.
it's a burner, it's a they make
now
apps now.
number.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And then number 3 was that they almost gave too much info. They gave passports instead of driver's licenses. And so a lot of times that deal with this that Linda's talking about, that deal slides through, it gets listed, it goes under contract, and then it's maybe not until I'm drafting docs that we realize, guys, we don't even have a bona fide seller here. This isn't even the right person.
Yeah.
And I think that Forewarn can protect real estate agents, Andrea, in ways beyond that. And so I start thinking about, Jade is a real estate agent. And when she's working with someone, they may come over. She had a builder one time that called from Miami and said, I'm going to be in town for the day. I want to drive around, see a handful of lots and make offers on them. And she had a nice book of vacant land listings. And so it just sounded really good. And she said, I want to look this guy up. And she looked the guy up on Forewarn. And you know what? We all have our own things. We all have our own stuff and lives outside of what we do professionally. But this guy had a lot of stuff on Forewarn. And it
like
turned out it wasn't
background?
somebody we probably didn't want her jumping into a truck with and riding around. But what we did do is we did have him follow us around, and I chauffeured, and then we ended up writing deals. And again, he turned out to be a fine customer. But Forewarn showed us that maybe there were some judgment calls that he had made in the past that were questionable and having to do with a criminal record. So that said, use the tools that are available to you to protect you, because when you're protecting yourself, you're protecting other people as well. As a real estate agent without a local office, how does that work if you're going out to show property? Do you let your broker know who you're working with? How do you protect yourself specifically when you're working with someone that you're not aware, that you don't know?
Yeah, usually I always take somebody with me because I don't want to, just go somewhere and I have no idea who you are. Even if I looked you up on Forewarn, your number was good. Even if you send me your license, you could still do something to me.
Absolutely. So this is saying, so we're talking about a listing appointment or a showing. You're saying
anything.
I love that. I love that. Now let's just say that you're one of the real estate professionals out there that doesn't have someone that they could take with them. Have you seen any other steps or any other, protections that a real estate agent could take that would help?
So if I ever can't have somebody go with me, there's people that have my location and I tell them, hey, just watch my location. Make sure, I'll text you when I come back.
Yeah, I know that Jade does that as well. And I share my location with Juliet and with Jade. And that way it's like if I'm heading, last time I went to Clewiston, when I leave here, I put in Kane Nutrition and then I share that with Jade. So she can see me going where I'm going, and then she knows, okay, he'll be back around this time. I like the sharing the location, and I think it's always a good idea. Everybody has someone that you can tell, hey, you know what? I'm going here to do this. I'll be back by, now. And I hate to say it, but it only takes one really bad situation to really change everything. And I know there's been stories in the news over the years. So that plays into realtor safety and as well into fraud. And so sometimes knowing who you're dealing with also has to do with being safe around those people. And it's unfortunate, but real estate agents are targets and they're vulnerable. They put a lot of their personal information on social media because we want you to know us. We want you to love us. We want you to feel like you want to do business with us and you can trust us. But what comes with that also is a feeling of familiarity that's kind of scary at times, especially if someone feels more familiar with you than they should feel comfortable. Be careful out there, guys, when you're doing business. And we all want deals and we all want to close deals, but we want to make sure that we do it safely. And so that's my fraud message for today on the episode here. If you're buying, selling, building, refinancing, or doing a deal in Florida, tag in Title Adam. I'm here to help you get to the closing table faster and with less stress. It's not just a great motto. It's actually a way that I live. I can back it up with results week after week. I wanted to touch base, shift gears a little bit from the local and talk about a condo bill that has now become law effective July 1. This is the bill, Andrea, it's called HB 913. I'm just going to run you through a couple things that have come up with it. Condos in Florida right now are a hot topic. Everybody loves talking about it on the news. Everybody wants to talk about how condos are no good. Condos are very good. Condos are a wonderful housing option for people that aren't able to take care of a lot of the simple tasks that come along with home ownership. And when you talk about condos, don't forget your HOA fee will include your insurance a lot of times, your maintenance, your Wi-Fi, your cable, your lawn care, landscaping, And it also includes reserves so that when the roof of your condo needs to be replaced, the money will be there. And the truth is, if you're buying your own home, you may not be budgeting for those repairs. So it is okay to buy a condo. It is still a very much a great option for a lot of people. But that said, you've got to know what you're doing. And if you're selling in the condo space in Florida, I think that you need to know what's going on with this law. The law basically says that there were milestone inspections that are being waived for certain properties if they're under 3 stories. I have a problem with it, Andrea, because I believe that they need to spend the money to fix the structural issues, but it was causing assessments that were astronomical, and people were losing their properties because, you know, it's going to cost $100,000. Right. So what this new bill also did is that it now requires that all HOAs include the board of directors meeting minutes for the preceding 12 months on their website. They have to disclose the last 12 months meeting minutes to help prospective purchasers learn of special assessments that have not yet been formally adopted. The bill also extends a buyer's right to cancel the contract to 7 days after receipt of the governing documents. This increased transparency will help reduce post-closing litigation. So just so that I can wrap that around into something that's a little bit easier to say, it goes like this. You used to be able to cancel in 3 days. Now you've got 7. That's a big deal. And then the other thing is that, and I actually can tell you that I've had this come up on a deal last year where I closed a condo, the listing agent text messaged the buyer's agent and said, there's a possibility of an assessment coming, but there was no addendum or formal disclosure made. We closed. I wasn't on my estoppel. We closed, and right after we closed, the board sends the new owner a letter and says there's a $20,000 assessment.
Oh my God.
And the buyer says, I'm not paying it. And he goes to his realtor, and that realtor says, it wasn't disclosed, wasn't on the estoppel. And I said, it wasn't disclosed to me, it wasn't on the estoppel. And the listing agent said, I text and at least had that receipt. And crazy as it sounds, Andrea, that day, that other agent's phone messed up and didn't get that text message. It was just a really wild scenario. Anyways, I remember at that point, Jade had told me, listen, Adam, anybody worth their salt in a real estate position would have said, we need to see the minutes from the HOA meetings where they talk about, hey, we're going to need to do an assessment here. We think we might be short on money. We're going to have to collect it. And that didn't happen. And so now what's happening is if you buy a condo in Stony Brook here in Estero, Stony Brook now will have to publish their last 12 months of HOA meetings. So you'll have a very clear vantage point as a buyer into what's going on with the board of your HOA. Now, you remember this term from your study, caveat emptor. Do you remember that Latin term in your real estate course? It means buyer beware.
Oh, okay.
And so
I remember that.
While everybody wants to come and say, Adam, it was Adam's responsibility, Andrea didn't tell me about this and that, at the end of the day, the term is caveat emptor. It's buyer beware. No one is more responsible than the buyer at the end of the day, because it's your responsibility to make sure that the water that you're jumping into is warm. And so, but this is a nice little tool that I think that I don't always root for government overreach, but I think it's cool that they're forcing a little bit of transparency.
Yes, I think it's good too.
And then the realtor can say, by the way, make sure that you take a look at those, because it's not your responsibility as the realtor to read those. It's not your responsibility to understand them. It's not your responsibility to even agree with them, but it is your responsibility, they're saying, to say, this is available for you as part of your due diligence, as part of your inspection. Make sure you take a look. How do you feel about radon? Have you had radon come up yet? I didn't know with you doing mostly land, so I'll cut that. But radon is another one where we see, they'll say, I got lung cancer and my realtor never told me about radon. And you go, well, I'm not a home inspector. It's not my job to test for radon. Some courts would ask you, is it your job to tell them that they can test for it and that they can look for it? It's a really slippery slope when we start asking the real estate agent to be the priest, the doctor, all of these different things, and not have other people take responsibility. It's one of the reasons why we don't like to give you wiring instructions. We don't want you to help get the earnest money deposit from the buyer. We want to give it to them directly. And that's just a layer of protection that we try to give you so that you don't get snagged on some kind of a fraudulent case.
That's pretty good because, for example, these wire instructions, I don't think I ever even seen them.
Yeah. And ideally, you'll never see them unless you're buying a property. And if you're giving us wiring instructions, obviously it'll be to wire your commission.
Yeah.
Good to know. This is another little nugget from the Realtor magazine that just came out. And I love reading these. I read them all the time when they come in. Jade is a realtor, and so she still gets them. But 60% of homeowners and prospective buyers are uncertain about the housing market. Despite this, 52% of prospective home buyers are optimistic about the state of the home buying market, saying it's better now than it was a year ago. And I read that twice before when I was preparing for this podcast. And it basically says that a lot of people feel negative right now, that even so, it's less people than were negative a year ago. I don't know if that's good news or not, but it's coming from the Florida Realtor magazine. I want to go a little bit deeper as far as what it's like being a young professional in the real estate industry in what's really a tight market. I don't know how many real estate firms are out in your area.
I'd say between Clewiston and LaBelle, there's probably like.
It's really, that's really crazy to me because on this street that we're sitting on, there's in this plaza that we're in, there may be 5. And so you're talking about in that whole area.
I might be wrong. There might be a little bit more now that I
but
think about it. But it's not like
not that many.
Not like
Yeah.
here. Yeah. No.
I know that when you drive through, at least through LaBelle, they're mostly on that main drag there if they're out there. And when I see names in, new listings or for pending reports and stuff, it's a handful of real good agents out there that are hustling. They've been doing it for a long time. Doesn't mean that they're doing it right, but they're doing it a lot.
Yeah.
And what's that like breaking into the business?
Well,
did you have a mentor? I never really asked you why you got into. I know
No.
you said that you were.
So I was working with the builder.
Yeah.
And he kind of needed me to get all his land for him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of why he helped me in a way get it, but he's not a realtor,
Right.
Himself. So
it worked out perfect.
Yeah. So in the beginning I was doing it for that reason, but I always knew like this is what I want to do. I want to be a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are now.
And do you have any family that's in real estate?
No, nothing.
So this
at
is
all.
so
This
you
is
literally are
brand
breaking
new,
in on your own.
Yes,
Yeah.
literally. Like there's nobody, not even something close to a real estate agent.
Yeah. That's really interesting because that is a unique situation to be in because you don't, you're not competing with others on that standpoint, but there's not a rich, deep background to draw on to say, I need help. I need an idea.
Yeah, no.
But that said, though, Max Wardlaw, Ruth Valadez, they all seem like they really will help you out if you had a question or needed something. They root for you. I know Ruth roots for you. Do you have an accountability partner within the firm or someone that you work with when you have a tough time, or how are you getting through it? Just the legal hotline and your broker?
No,
or?
actually, I rarely even reach out to the broker, like unless he hasn't signed my CDA.
Yeah.
But no, I don't even think I've ever, maybe once I called the legal hotline, maybe once. But I do know they're available. Ruth, I know I can reach out to her and ask her anything and she'll help me. Yes. So there's a group of us. Tiffany Mosby.
I know
So
that
it's
name.
her. Yeah. And then there's like
Sky?
Sky is my area leader. I love Sky.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen my Facebook post, but yeah, it was with Sky. I don't know if you've ever seen Sky. Or, have you met Sky?
We're on social media, but I've never met her.
Oh,
yeah.
She lives in Naples.
Oh,
Really nice. You should meet her one day.
yeah, I like that.
She's amazing.
So she's an area leader.
She is.
Okay. So tell me about what does that mean? So you do have some kind of a structure or some kind of a
Yeah,
support there.
so
Because if you're in someone's
yeah.
downline or they're in your downline, you root for them. You want them to win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. There's different people in our group. So we have this group chat. We got Robert. He's kind of like the mentor there in a way. There's, Ruth, there's Tiffany, there's Alethea, there's different people. There's some people that I've never even had a conversation with, but if I go in the group chat and I ask a question, I know somebody will respond.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
yeah, me too.
Yeah,
know.
it's interesting that you have a background in construction because we didn't really go into that, and that really kicks off and makes a lot of sense why you have a listing book of all of these wonderful lots, and that's you're comfortable with that. And I think that
Yes.
there's a lot of real estate agents that really aren't comfortable with land. There are certain due diligence pieces, there's inspection pieces that come with it,
Yeah.
and they don't feel comfortable. And I think your background
Yeah.
with a builder
Mm-hmm.
and your background in insurance helps as well.
Yeah.
I think that that's really interesting. I think that that helps me to understand why land is such a nice fit for you. That said, you'll sell a house or a condo as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know every area of the market is a little different, but for example, Cape Coral with the burrowing owls. In Lehigh, we deal with, I see cancellations occasionally for gopher tortoises.
Yep. As well as LaBelle.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to ask you. Scrub jay up in Charlotte County is a big deal. Tell me a little bit about what, if I was buying land tomorrow, what are some of the things that you would say, Adam, make sure that you look at this or ask your realtor about this, because I don't know, I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. So I would say for LaBelle, the gopher tortoises and the burrows are a super big thing to look at, because if you buy, I'm sure a lot of people have probably bought land that they didn't even know had the, and then there's some that have the gopher tortoises or the burrows and no one will ever know. And then there's some that have actually been reported.
Right.
So the people that take care of that are protecting them, I think it's maybe the DEP, I could be wrong. They go out and sometimes they'll put little signs on the property that says,
You're marked.
stop
You're
or
tagged.
something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and then there's some that don't have anything. And I believe it actually gets recorded on some kind of website that they use where you can actually look it up and see if that address has been reported.
And that's good, because if you're a buyer, you would use that as a, I know,
Yeah.
because I live out in Lehigh, and I follow a Facebook
too.
group in Lehigh that has
Yeah.
a lot of strong opinions, a lot of local strong opinions. But one of the things that I see on there a lot is people reporting clearing of lots that weren't permitted, that may have gopher tortoise on it, or
Killing
maybe
them.
wetlands.
Yeah,
where
I was
they're-
going to
we're
move on to
running
that
in.
next.
Yeah. And so I see that a lot, and I know for a fact that DEP has used satellite images before to document that someone cleared a wetland after they were told not to, and that it does somehow, they mark it to where you're basically
Yes,
you're
it's in
marked,
the red.
it's in
Yes,
trouble. Yeah.
it's in the red. Mhm.
But I think it's worth saying also that with few exception, you can still do something with the land. It may cost you money to mitigate it, but they will
Yeah.
relocate that gopher tortoise for a fee. They will,
Yes, and
move
it's an
the
expensive fee,
Yeah.
but yes, you can do that. And then as far as wetlands, they'll tell you like there is a possibility that you can still build on it if you get approval from them. But as far as how hard that is, how much money you got to
You may
pay, I
spend a
have
ton
not.
in filter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've not had anything like that yet.
Have you had land deals though that due to environmental have come apart with the tortoise or the owls, or have you dodged that bullet so far?
I would say yes. For the builder, that's one thing that I looked out for him to make sure, he wasn't buying any land that had tortoises. And then as far as where I have the listings now in Ventura, I always check if there is a wetland, the flood zone and everything like that.
So you're doing some of that up front so that when they make
Yes.
the offer, or you're
Yes,
saying
and
on
I
the
asked
listing
them-
side.
Yes, on
Yeah.
the listing side. Yeah, both sides,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to represent a buyer, have them buy a lot that has problems.
Yeah.
I want them to be aware. And usually, I don't know if you've seen my 2 listings today. One of them was a wetland, and I specifically put in there, this is priced lower because it is a wetland.
And somebody will grab it.
Yeah, the DEP is aware of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that. And it's a really risky, it's a really risky business trying to skirt that, because they will find you and they will fine you. And what's happened, like I said, is in different communities, the community themselves are holding that. They're going out there and they're stopping the people from clearing the land and saying, no, you can't do this. And a lot of them will say, anecdotally, that it's from builders coming from out of the area, from Miami. We love the mangroves in Florida. And I grew up down here as well. And I know that there were times where they said, we will never, ever, ever allow mangroves to be cut down because they're so important to our ecosystem, and they provide a wind barrier, and they do all this wonderful stuff. And you know what? When we run out of land and there's a need, all of a sudden the mangroves can get cut down. And I have a feeling that even with properties that you tell me are wetlands today, that in 10 years, at the rate that we're developing, all of a sudden we'll find dirt that we can throw on that and build on it, because we just are so hungry for development. And I say that, a lot of people say that I come across as almost like anti, and I'm not. I make my money, I feed my family by doing deals, but I can't help but just ask, wow, some of the development that we're doing, is it really necessary to go to that level of density right now in a housing market that seems to be shifting a little bit? So just my opinion on that. Wanted to ask you a couple of questions regarding staging and your opinion on this. Seller moves out of their home, they want to sell the home, it's empty.
Oh,
Do you believe that it would be better to bring in real furnishings, leave it blank, or do a virtual staging where you could add different sofas and different tables in?
well, I think it's good to stage it because, when you see something empty, you might not have the vision for it. Like you might just think like, oh, but when you see furniture on there, it might,
Kind of define the space a little bit.
yeah, make it look better or give you ideas, of what you can put there, like maybe something that you wouldn't have thought of.
And to that point, though, and then the flip side of that coin, Andrea, is the risk of, oh my God, that's hideous.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? So is it better if they're getting like garage sale table and chairs to put into the space? Is it better to just be empty? And the reason I ask is because a lot of real estate agents today will do virtual staging. And so you'll see, like, for example, let's say that the photographer goes in and the house has a TV on the wall. Well, they won't turn the TV on, but they'll superimpose like a beach scene on the TV.
Yes.
And that's kind of a virtual staging also,
Yeah.
right? So as somebody who,
I've had a photographer do that
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
as someone who unapologetically uses filters on TikToks and social media and stuff like that, I think that's great.
Yeah.
But there is an element of that, Andrea, where you walk into this place that you've seen online. And you walk in and now
it's
you
nothing like the
realize it's
pictures?
nothing like the pictures. There's a benefit to being able to see what it could
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if that takes away from, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you that in today's market, if you can't get them to come through the front door, they're not going to buy the home. And so I
Exactly.
kind of think that the staging
I
is
think it's a
something
good
that you
thing.
could do,
I think it's a good thing because if you're representing the seller, you're trying to do everything in your power to bring people in. And if somebody walks in and it's not for them, then it's not for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And they typically, you know the neighborhood, what's in the area, you understand the schools and the traffic, whatever that would be. So really, for a lot of people, that's superficial because you could paint it and you can do, it's a lot of people want to know what's the layout, what's the square footage, how many bedrooms am I working with here? I would like to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to contact you, to reach out to you. In an ideal world, if we did our job today, then we've talked about Andrea Garcia at Epic Realty. We understand a little bit about your business. We understand that you're a professional. We understand you're someone that we would love to hire. And I would love to work with again because I've really enjoyed it personally. What's the best way for someone to get in touch with you?
You can message me at 863-254-7049. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram.
And I'll make sure to put all of your contact info in the notes below. But
you.
Andrea Garcia, she's with Epic Realty. She's a fantastic real estate professional here in the market. She's Florida licensed. She's rooted in Southwest Florida. She's from the area. She's grown up here. And now she's ready to serve the community, which I think is really awesome. I want to thank you for coming on to the show. If you're buying, selling, building, refinancing in Florida, give us a shot here at Premier Reputation Title. We'd love to have the opportunity to help you. And I'm going to wrap it for the day. Andrea, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much, Adam. It was an honor and a pleasure.
That's a wrap on Title Adam in the House. Subscribe, share, and tag in Title Adam when it's time to close. You want to be a guest? Book your spot. The link's in the show notes.
Lehigh Acres, we asked over 100 people locally where Lehigh Acres got its name, and we were told, well, we gave the options. Was it named after General Robert E. Lee? Was it named after the original owner and developer, Lee Ratner, who was the owner of Decon? Was it named that because it's the highest elevation in Lee County, or was it something else? And I wasn't really expecting the something else, but I did get a something else. I got somebody who said that Lee Ratner also owned D. Lehigh Cement Company and that he took the Lehigh out of that. But the general consensus is that Lehigh Acres got its name as a hybrid because Lee Ratner was the original owner-developer. The property is located in Lee County, and it is the highest elevation in the county. Hey, what's up? It's Title Adam. It's Sunday. We are at Big Cypress Bend Boardwalk. It's in Fakahatchee Strand. It's in Florida. We're down in the swamp. We're in the Everglades, man. I'm going to show you a little bit about it, but then I'm going to turn this off. The mosquitoes are so big and so bad, they will carry me away, but I'll try to get you some highlights to see throughout the day. All right, later. I'd love to switch gears and talk a little bit about the petition to increase the homestead exemption in Florida to $100,000. Now, there's 67 counties in the state of Florida, and TitleAdam.com has a link to each one, but each of those counties stand to gain from increasing the homestead exemption to $100,000. Today, you can get to 50, and that's not reflective of the real estate market. The last time this was addressed, real estate values were a fraction of where they are today. People need real relief. We live in a state where there's senior citizens that are making decisions on which prescription they will fill this month if they're able to do one at all. We have first-time home buyers that are right now getting their very first property tax bill in the mail, and they will have sticker shock, especially if it was new construction last year. So as you're looking at your trim notice this year, I'd like for you to ask yourself, what would $500 savings mean to your household as we slide right into holiday season 2025. Now, the truth is, tax bills are set for this year. It is what it is. At this point, we're working towards 2026 and beyond. And believe it or not, we do have to start working right now to get the support to get this in front of the decision maker. I want to make a quick comment because I've gotten a lot of support. Brian, thank you for signing. Sal, I know you signed as well. If you haven't yet signed, take a quick moment and sign this petition. But to the people that have remarked that it's not enough, that it is a waste of time, I would just like to ask you to please reconsider that. And I would tell you that if we don't start somewhere, we will get nowhere. The politicians in Florida and in this country would love for you and I to argue about this topic until the cows come home, while they continue to bill you full rate for your property taxes. We have to find a spot to put our foot in and then work from there. So I would love to see no property taxes for homestead. I'd love that. But the reality is it's not going to happen quickly. It's not going to happen today. We can start with 100,000. So I just implore you, if you haven't yet done it, sign it. If you have signed it, thank you. Share it with others on your social media. We have, at this point, 208 signatures, and I would just like to give you flavor for that. I live in Lehigh Acres, and there's a sign that I pass twice a day coming and going that we have over 125,000 residents in Lehigh Acres alone. You tell me why Tidal Adam's only been able to get 208 people to say that this is a good idea. If you are a homeowner in Florida and you dedicate your homestead to our state, you should be burning rubber to sign this petition. I'm sorry, but it's true. And we have the tax money to do it for you. I've created the framework. We just need for you to sign the petition so that we can get it in front of the people that matter. Ron DeSantis has said, I'm going to let the people vote on it. I don't trust Ron DeSantis, and I'm sorry, because I think that at the end of the day, it won't make it on the ballot, and we'll do it next year, and Ron DeSantis has gone on to other things. This is a way to force accountability for local politicians and tell them this is what we want. This is a check and balance and a way for us to inspect what we expect. It's my rant. Thank you for letting me talk about it, guys, because it's something that I try to talk about every single time I turn the microphone on.
But I'd love to bring up some points on that.
Please,
because I'm a big advocate. Once you mentioned it, I said, where do I sign?
Yeah, I know you did.
And I think that it's important. You brought up a good point. One, homes aren't what they used to cost. So the fact that we're getting $50,000 homestead exemption, it's not the same. Two, the distraction. Yes, everybody keeps thinking, well, it's going to be eliminated. They're working on it. Governor DeSantis has done incredible work in the state of Florida. We don't know whether he's going to be able to make that change or not. So just waiting around is not effective.
Yeah, and not to jump on you, but he also, Governor DeSantis, had a feasibility study that was designed to study this canceled. And it's a very slippery slope, because I think that the angle that he took was, we don't even need to study it. We're going to put it before the people on a ballot. And I believe that that is just a way to slow it down, get it, basically kick the can down the road. And I think Ron DeSantis has done a lot of great things for Florida. And Ron, if you're watching this, thank you. But I want to see proof, and I want to drive that legislative behavior through documented support from the community. Sorry,
right. So
jump back in.
With the start of changing from 50,000 and increasing that to 100,000, that's a great start. If it just happens to be where he does effectively eliminate that, well, round of applause.
Great. He'll be a hero.
But let's start somewhere. So I encourage people to sign the petition, start here. Your signature will make a difference. Yeah. Like he said, there's just too many of us who own a home that if you're not signing, you're a fool.
Yeah. If I knocked on your door once a year and offered you a check for $500, would you turn me away? You would not turn me away. I don't care who you are, because if you have a lot of money, you could always use more. And if you don't have money, then you certainly need it today. This is real relief that's needed and deserved today.
One more point. I did mention it to somebody else, in passing, and he brought up a good point. He says, I would hate for Governor DeSantis to remove taxes for properties. I said, what? That's the first time I've ever heard somebody. Right. This guy's a conservative. Yeah. He owns a lot of property. So I would assume that he wanted that. He says, you know why? You already have a system in place to generate revenue for the state. Mm-hmm. Where that money goes, that's what I want to solve. That's
a really good point.
And when I saw that yours was 100,000 versus total elimination, I said, that is a good avenue for Adam to help people understand.
Yeah, I think a lot of people visit our state, and if I have family up in Indiana, for example, and if you go up to Indiana and you drive through Indianapolis, the medians are, and I love the Circle City, but the medians are busted up. They've got cracks with weeds growing through them. They're not maintained the way that they are. You drive down Corkscrew Road here where my office sits, and you see beautiful landscaping. You see, curated, just design, and you see very, very appealing stuff. We need money for that. That costs money. We need tax revenue. That's why I say eliminating it, all or nothing, is not the argument. And I think that we just have to be really careful. I think that 100,000 gives us a chance to just look and see. Now, one thing that the government has been doing in Florida is they've been sending in DOGE experts into counties, and they're looking at the books, and they're really pressuring local counties and saying you're collecting too much in taxes. And so I feel like that is a diversion thing. It's a look over here, look at what we're doing. The fact of the matter is the homeowner needs relief. And I want to provide a response to the government that says we have to take some kind of an action. We don't want you to stop collecting tax revenue, but here's a way we can do it. And I don't even believe that we would have to take from anywhere else. I think that there are just little items that we could just tighten up on a little bit and pull a little bit from here and a little bit from there. And ultimately, we're talking about county taxes. So this is even at the local level. If you see someone in a restaurant that's a lawmaker or someone that has influence, I'm asking them, hey, what's going on with that?
Accountability. You said it. That's all we want as taxpayers. Accountability.
Yeah.
Where is our money going?
Yeah. Florida is awesome because it doesn't have a state income tax. And that's something that makes us very attractive to businesses coming in. We tax mortgages. I every time I do a deal, I'm sending Uncle Sam or actually Uncle Ron a check for doc stamps and tangible tax and stuff like that. And we need all that, and we want all of that. But I think that working on this project now for a couple of months has allowed me to step away from just Title Adam. Like you were talking about, this isn't a Minneapolis thing. This has nothing to do with Title Adam from the standpoint of where you do title. Any of my peers in the industry should be signing this.
Right.
Any of my competitors, I will say, they should be signing it. Sure. Well, you're not going to enrich me by signing it, but you might enrich yourself. And we work as a community. And I think when we can get behind community advocacy, the Innovate Act, this petition, what we're doing is we're actually creating something that's going to foster success in all of us moving forward. And you know what? Hey, if you happen to do good too, that's great. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing with the Innovate Act. I know that it does have a very big impact on your business, but it has a big impact on my business as well. And the professionals that are listening to this, that are in homeowners insurance, that are in property surveying, anyone that ties and touches your work should really be a raving fan of what you're doing there. I thought I would make a quick video and just talk a little bit about how, as Premier Reputation Title has marched east, we have done something that is really good for you at the end of the day. And whether you're a real estate agent, a builder, a mortgage loan officer, or just an individual that will eventually buy or sell real estate and need a title company, us opening a location in Lehigh Acres gives a competitive spirit. It drives customer service levels up, and it benefits ultimately the individuals that use the service. And so in Lehigh Acres specifically, I see two competitors there that have the lion's share of business. Now, don't get me wrong, because there's a lot of really talented title employees in Lehigh Acres and surrounding areas, but there's two companies today that have the lion's share of business, and that's who I'm really focused on. And when I move further east into LaBelle and Hendry County, there's two title companies out there that also have the lion's share of business. And just as I'm doing in Lehigh Acres today, I will provide a third option in Hendry County that will be excellent customer service, fair prices, fast work, and ultimately, if you don't use me, you will benefit from higher customer service levels at my competition. They will be forced to play ball, because when Title Adam shows up, I show up to play. I wake up, dress up, and show up every single day, and it drives my competition to do better when I do that. So this is where I'm at today. If you're buying, selling, building, refinancing, or doing a deal in Florida, tag me in and let me help. I'm happy to. Send me a message and have a great weekend. It's actually pretty common for people to hear the term title insurance and to say, not interested, don't want it, don't need it, can't afford a monthly payment for any kind of insurance, can barely afford car insurance or homeowners insurance. Title insurance is different. It's a single premium policy, and it doesn't insure the future. It insures the events of the past. It says that You own the property no matter what, and will indemnify you up to the amount of the policy for the life of the time that you own the property. So you do need title insurance. If you're taking out a mortgage to buy a property, you're going to have title insurance. So knowing that, who you hire matters. Tag in Title Adam. I'm local, licensed, and ready to help. If you're buying, selling, building, or refinancing, call me today. So the more you know. Some people didn't know that, and I hope that that is something that, now you know. See ya.
Welcome to Title Adam in the House, the podcast where Florida real estate gets real. Buyers, sellers, builders, and lenders. If you're in the game, then you belong in the house. Let's get you to the closing table fast and with less stress. Let's go. Hey, everybody, it's Title Adam. I'm in the house today with Mike Derengowski. He is a friend of mine. Mike and I held an event in January of 2025 to introduce the community to telescopes. Since then, we've had a lot of fun chatting, and for that, we bring him into the house today. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you having me here, Adam.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. I'm excited because it's a Saturday. We're here at the studios of Premier Reputation Title in Estero. We also have an office in Bonita. And if you're buying, selling, building, refinancing, or doing a deal in Florida, tag in Title Adam. I'm local and licensed, and I'm ready to help. So here we are today in the studio. Mike, there's a lot of things going on from a space perspective. There's headlines every day about 3i Atlas is coming our way, but there's also a full eclipse this weekend, a lunar eclipse. There's a full moon in Pisces. And so we're here to talk about all of that. But before we get into the big one, which is 3i Atlas, tell me about telescopes in general, because a lot of people may not know this, but there's more than one type of telescope. Let's start with that.
Yeah, absolutely. You got you have about 3 different kinds of telescopes. Originally, they were invented in 1608 by some unnamed guy. Galileo came around a year later and improved on it and pretty much made the first refractor telescope.
Okay.
Now, a refractor telescope is a telescope like the normal one that people are used to with the long tube, and you look at in the bottom of it.
Right. Spyglass almost.
Yes, pretty much. Yes. You have a lens on the top and you have a lens at the bottom, and that's your refractor. And because it's refracting the light, it's changing the light and pretty much just bending the focal point to the lens at the back. 60 years later, Isaac Newton came around and designed his own telescope, but it was based on a mirror concept that used reflection, and then we call those reflectors.
Okay. So at that point, that might have been even highly controversial that he was changing the game, going from a refraction to a reflection.
Yes.
And that was 60 years approximately after?
Yes, 1668.
Okay.
He invented the first one. And it's actually, the name still sticks with it nowadays. It's called a Newtonian reflector. Dobsonians are a type of Newtonian reflectors.
So are there refraction telescopes still in use today, or did we move to reflection?
No, we use both kinds.
Okay.
Both kinds, yeah.
And would the hobbyists such as you and I have access to both types?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, both are very common ground. Most beginner telescopes, I would say, would be a refractor, long, skinny telescope. That's, the cheap kinds that you find at, at the box stores and stuff like that.
Yep. Amazon.
And
we're going to
that.
put a list, Mike, on our Amazon storefront for those that want to look up at the stars. And we'll put in some different telescope options. I bought some lenses last year for Christmas. that I like to recommend to some friends, and so we'll definitely put that in there.
Yeah, High Point Scientific is a good site to go to for your telescope needs. They're very knowledgeable, and they have pretty much everything that you're looking for.
And we'll put that link in there as well, and that was High Point
Scientific.
High Point Scientific. Now, just to go back, now that we talked about the kinds of telescopes, I'll share the story with how I met Mike, and because Mike is a certified instructor with Lee County Parks. He has been sharing his love with telescopes with the community for a long time. And we both live in Lehigh Acres with our children, and our kids go to school out there. I saw an event that he was doing at the park in Lehigh Acres, and I just reached out to him because 2 years prior, I had bought Jade a telescope for her birthday. And I bought it on Facebook Marketplace and from some kid. He didn't know anything about it. He just gave me the books and all the materials, and it was on a mount.
Yep.
And I brought it home, had no idea what to do with it, put it in the garage, and it just leaned there for 2 years.
Collected dust, probably.
Collected dust, and was, by the grace of God, never fell over and broke. Because we have kids running in and out, basketballs bouncing. And I remember seeing your event and seeing people commenting on what you were doing because you're at Veterans Park. And I reached out to Mike and said, if I threw you $50, would you swing by my house and show me how to use my telescope? And he came over. Mike spent close to an hour by the time it was all set up. And you gave me a crash course that was so good and so easy to really follow, which was to say that, hey, there's two knobs. And there's this one makes it go up and down. This one makes it go side to side, left to right. But you set it up for me.
Yeah, you have to have it at a certain altitude. It's got to be pointed towards the North Star at our latitude, degree of latitude. And here in Southwest Florida, we're at approximately 25 degrees north. So that's what you have to set your mount at.
And I want to say that when you looked at mine for calibration, that it was set proper.
Yes.
But you explained why it was that way. I don't know if the prior owner even used it, to be honest with you, but I remember seeing, okay, so that was something that had to be addressed. And then there's a process of calibrating the scope where you used a distant street light from my backyard and focused in on that, and then used that to kind of get an idea of fine tuning, if you will.
Yes, that was to align your finder scope with your main scope.
Now, my finder scope is actually just a small scope above the tube. What would you call my telescope? You know it better than me.
Yeah, yours is a NexRad. It's a Telerad. It's a laser pointer, pretty much.
Yep.
It's not an actual, scope that you look in and you're going to see something visually.
Right.
It's a laser scope to get you approximately where you want to be at.
Right.
For the most part.
Yep. And which I currently have broken that in transport. So I've been running blind without it. I still have the actual scope on there, but the wire came loose. And so I don't have the laser point. So we went through the process of calibrating that scope. And then I'll never forget what you did for me, which was that you said the scope that you have came with one lens.
Yes.
And that was a good lens. I think that I can't remember the
there's
size of it.
nothing wrong with it, but
yeah,
you're limited to one magnification.
This is your view.
And that's it.
And you gave me I believe it was an 8 millimeter.
8 or 6 millimeter.
8 or 6. And that allowed me to look at things in much more detail. And we'll get into this in a minute because it's important. The lens that you use in your telescope is kind of like the zoom level on your phone.
Yes.
Right? And so when you zoom in on something to see a fine detail, you lose the outside edges of the picture. It starts to shrink in. However, without that magnification advantage, you could quickly become bored with your view. And I think that, especially with kids, and depending on the magnification that you're working with, you may not be that far beyond an iPhone's capability.
Yes.
As far as looking at the moon and zooming in and getting that zoom. But that said, you let me have a 6, I believe it was an 8 millimeter lens. And that way I was able to have a different view. From that point, though, Mike, we were pretty much hooked. We were out back every night that the weather would allow. Now, that would have been, I believe, November when I first hooked up with you. And we did an event in January.
Cooler weather, more stable atmosphere.
Perfect to go out from basically sunset all the way through. All the way till the morning. So I really enjoyed that. And I think that anyone that's looking into telescopes needs to take a couple of minutes and set it up right. Then they need to broaden their viewpoint through different lenses. And further, the set that I bought and I'll put a link in the show notes. The set that I bought had additional screw-on colored lenses that would go on
filters. Yes,
yeah, filters on. And I haven't spent a lot of time with that, but I'll ask you how I can get better mileage on that, because I know that, for example, there's a yellow filter that is just phenomenal for X, and then there's a red filter that they say if you look at Mars, then it's going to really enhance what you're looking at.
Yes.
But you could have all of the tools, and without knowing what to use when, you could get overwhelmed.
Yes.
And from a cost standpoint, it's not a cheap hobby.
It's not a cheap hobby, and it's a very frustrating hobby at times.
Yeah. How many scopes do you have currently?
Currently, I think I have 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Of all different sizes, makes, and models, and different types.
Yeah. And I've seen when you'll go out to the park to do an event, you will bring a 10-inch Dobsonian. And I'll put some pictures
usually
in as we're talking. I'll put some pictures in up here, but a 10-inch, a 12-inch Dobsonian, an 8-inch.
Yeah,
also
I have
10, and 12.
Yeah.
And then you're bringing in
the CSAR. And then once in a while, I even bring in a refractor type, and
and I'll bring mine, which he's helped set up before, and then we'll take a look at that when we get to the park. So it's a labor of love that you do for the community and for your kids. You've got small children like me; they're running around, they're learning, and I start to wonder now, because your children are about my age of my youngest, and I start to wonder if the iPhone didn't kill the amateur telescope enthusiast because of the zoom levels of these cameras, and how, when I brought my 16-year-old out onto the back patio to look at Jupiter, I remember him saying, that's it. He wasn't really that excited about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, if you really look, you can see the moon next to Jupiter. You can see 3 of the moons in this shot. And he wasn't really that excited about it. And I wonder if the iPhone and the Samsung cameras maybe killed some of that.
I don't think it's necessarily the iPhone or the smartphones that did it. I think it's a lot of people have an unrealistic expectation of what they're going to be able to see in a telescope, as opposed to the photos that are out there sent out by Hubble and NASA. James Webb Telescope, Space Telescope. Nothing on Earth is going to be able to compete with what you see from that. And those are processed photos, stacked photos.
Yeah.
They're hours and hours worth of data.
Infrared images that our eye wouldn't even see without the aid of a computer.
Yes, and they don't have to. They also don't have to deal with the interference of the Earth's atmosphere like ground-based telescopes do.
Right.
So that puts limitations on what we can see, because even if conditions are perfect, we still have an atmosphere to have to look through, and that causes distortion.
Yep.
So, a lot of times you see these wonderful pictures on online of all these nebulas, these close-ups of the planets, Saturn, and you're not going to be able to see those in most normal amateur telescopes. Some professional telescopes that they have at certain sites and stuff like that, maybe in observatories, but in most cases you can't. So a lot of people have this expectation that they're going to see all these things, but the galaxies look like little faint blobs. Not to say that they're not cool looking and stuff, because you're still seeing millions of light years away.
Yeah, it's hard to really fathom the distance that scope is covering. And part of that is why I get frustrated, and as an amateur and as a hobbyist, someone who has high school level understanding of physics and science. Now, if we could see Saturn and even see the rings on Saturn from our backyard, and we know that the moon, our moon, is way closer than Saturn. And I just realized the answer, because you've told me this before. Why can't we see, really granular detail of the moon? Why can we not see that? And it's because the size of the moon versus the size of Saturn.
It's way smaller, for one. And we can see, fairly decent at the moon, but you got to understand that even the small little craters that we're able to image and magnify, on photographs and stuff on the moon, they're still tens of kilometers and miles across. They're not tiny little things. They're still huge things, even,
And within that, there's details that we don't resolve down to.
Absolutely.
Right.
And there's reasons why we don't have orbiters going around the moon. For one, the moon's gravity is not equal all the way around.
Okay.
So that puts satellites in low orbit around the moon. It puts them in jeopardy of eventually not slingshot, but eventually their orbit degrading and actually crashing into it. The moon doesn't have much of atmosphere, but it does have a very faint, small one, and it's enough to cause
Just
some
enough.
friction that will degrade the orbit of those low orbit.
Yeah. Wow.
There's a couple of them that are out there that there are in stable low orbits. China has one and NASA has one right now. But that's about the only two that we have around the moon right now. But even those, they can't result craters that are only a meter across and stuff like that. You're not going to be able to see something like that from
Now,
an
without,
orbiter.
but without, or with a very, you said a very slight atmosphere. If you could get outside of Earth's atmosphere to get towards the moon, could you then see at a greater level of clarity? You know, because I'm imagining that it's the atmosphere between us and the moon that's really causing that.
Yes.
Yeah. So it wouldn't even be necessarily a low orbit needed.
No,
But
you
something
just-
just outside of the restrictions of our atmosphere. Because I know I've gotten texts from you before where you're like, I've got everything moved out and things have just changed. Conditions have worsened and I can't see
Gets
anything
foggy,
tonight. It's
yeah.
gone. It's over.
Got foggy in
Yeah.
5 minutes. And
Yeah.
stuff.
And so the Earth's atmosphere presents a lot of those challenges. But I know that for me, looking at the moon, so starting closest to home, looking at the moon for me is probably one of my favorite things to do. And I thought when I met you, I can't wait till the full moon so I can get right out there and look at it, right? And that's like looking right into the headlight of a car.
Yeah,
It's
like a
so
flashlight.
bright.
It's blinding. You see spots for half an hour afterwards, and
Now I do have a filter that you can screw onto the lens that will kind of dim that a little bit and allow you to see it. But I feel like, and from what you've shared with me, the best viewing is going to be half or less.
half moon, or even I would say a quarter moon would
Yeah.
be the absolute best. And you get better effects that way too. You get more shadows. You get to see more details in the craters, the mountain ranges and stuff like that. And believe it or not, there are certain features on the moon's surface that only pop up when the shadow's hitting it from a certain
Just right.
angle. Yeah, like there's this X, like an X that's in a mountain range, and you can only see this rock formation that's in an X shape.
Yep.
Only when the shadow's hitting it from a certain angle, like on a quarter moon.
Yeah.
And it's for only like 1 day,
And that's it.
and that's it. And then you can't see it for another month.
Yeah. Yeah. So the moon is when it's prime time, that's where I like to start every day or every time, you know, and I've seen some really great shots of the moon. I've seen you take some really great shots of the moon with a reflector versus you've done some great stuff with the Sea-Star as well, which is in its own it's in its own class, right?
Yeah.
Because of what it does. But sticking with that, a picture that you took and sent to me, it was of, I think the way that you said it was, this is the youngest moon you've ever seen. And it was just the tiniest little sliver.
It's like 1%.
It's the tiniest little sliver of the moon coming through.
Hours
And
old.
Hours old. Newborn, you know,
Yep.
and it's such a sweet, sweet view. So then we go, you know, going out from there, we see Venus in the sky at night, as true as ever, you know, over to
Or in the
to-
morning time,
or in
depending,
the
depending on where it is. Right now,
From my
currently-
backyard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
currently it's in the morning time.
Yep.
It rises in the morning time with around before sunrise.
And so we're coming into what we hope to be some really great sky viewing weather. Maybe
Yeah.
November. Is that about when that's going to
Yeah,
kick up?
October, November, the weather starts calming down.
Yeah.
It's more stable.
Yep.
Once you start getting the cold fronts and the humidity goes down, because humidity is a killer for telescoping. It fogs up your lenses. It creates
Yeah.
a heavier atmosphere to make it harder to see through, and you get less clarity that
Yeah.
way.
So think about that, guys, when you're talking about if you're going to get out your equipment at night, look at the weather report. And, you know, anecdotally, when you're in hurricane season, it's going to be tough.
Yes.
Because storms will pop up. But, you know, generally you want clear skies. You want cool weather if you could get it, just to be comfortable.
Cool, dry weather,
Yeah.
low humidity.
Yep.
Less wind, because
Yeah.
less wind creates less turbulence in the upper atmosphere. Because things even like jet streams, you can have a clear day, but if you got a jet stream going
Yeah.
up there, that's going to create some turbulence. Your scene's
And I
not
got
gonna
them.
be
They
good.
come right over our house to get to the airport. So I know that that's very real. Obviously, you have to set up a view, a place where you have a clear sky. So we've got that. We've got Venus early in the morning right now.
Jupiter's in the morning time.
Jupiter's earlier in the morning.
Yep.
Uranus
Uranus is in the morning, but that's more of a you need a telescope to see. It's
You're
not
gonna
more visual.
yeah. So,
you know.
but Venus you could do naked eye.
Oh, yeah,
Everybody's
Venus you
seen
can do naked
Venus
eye.
in the sky. If you've ever looked up, you
Oh.
can't miss it. And then you start going into Uranus. You said with a scope.
with a scope.
And what about Mercury?
Mercury, right now, Mercury's too close to the sun to see, but it was visible about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I got a couple days where I was able to see it right in the morning time.
Yeah.
But Mercury is actually harder to see than Neptune or Uranus because it spends so much of its time close to the sun.
So yeah, you can't.
It's
stare
too
at the
close
sun.
it's too close to the glare. You can't see it.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So my very energetic mother just served us
It's
9
9
pizzas.
pizza.
So okay, so now we've got Saturn.
Okay.
And Saturn is so special. If you won't know this until you look at it through a telescope. It is special. The first time you get to see it, you won't believe it because it's not huge, at least on my telescope, but that you can get clarity. You can see the rings. And it almost, to me, is like when I look at you remember when we were kids, they had these reels that had these little pictures on them, and then you would put them in a Viewmaster. I think it was
Click the
called-
little thing. Yeah.
It almost looks like that, almost cartoonish when you see Saturn in the sky because it's so far away. And it's almost like you're looking at an X-ray, through the telescope, black and white. And what a special shot. So can you see Saturn right now? Saturn is...
Yes, yeah, in the evening times.
Okay.
I would say probably after 11, 12 o'clock, it's going to be up. It's going to be at opposition, which means it's prime viewing time later this month.
Okay. So towards the end of the month, you'll be able to, if you want to see it.
It'll be at its best viewing of the year. Pretty
Good one.
much
Yeah.
September 21st is going to be opposition.
And that opposition will last for how long?
A couple
months?
weeks.
Oh, a couple weeks.
A couple
Okay.
weeks. But I mean, it's not going to say it's not going to be good seeing for it. But
It's just
afterwards,
in the prime.
that's its absolute prime for the
Yeah.
year. It's going to be your best viewing conditions for the planet of the year.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so you have all these planetary bodies. That's great. They're fun and they're fairly easy with an app on the phone to kind of get an idea of where to look, and then
Yes.
you're dialing in with your different lenses and different magnification. If someone were to ask you, what's that millimeter lens that you just could not do without? What's the the 10 millimeter of?
I was actually just going to say a 10 for my close up for the planets and the moon. I like using my 10. It gives you enough magnification where you can see a lot of details, but it's not so small where it's almost impossible to look through the eyepiece.
Because that's what happens is, again, when you magnify, imagine zooming on your phone, and that's fine. But once you're zoomed in so much, you lose context of where you are. And in a dark sky with light years in between different bodies, you could be just scanning for a long time. So I think that that's important to note, is that you do lose that outside the context of the shot when you go into magnifying. So I usually like to drill down. Just as an amateur, I'll start basically as far out as I can still see it.
The larger the eyepiece, and then you work
and
your way
then work
to
your way
the
in.
more powerful
Yeah.
ones.
The moon is a little easier because it's a big shot target in the sky.
Yeah, it's hard to miss.
Yeah, but if you're going for Jupiter and the moons of Jupiter, then that, I feel like you have to start and dial into it. And I love that. I really enjoy telescopes. I like everything about that. Mike, what about when people ask you, like, do you ever see comets on a? Can you see a comet
yeah.
on a telescope?
It's not all the time because they come around periodically, and comets are very fickle. Sometimes there'll be a lot of hype on a comet, being like, "Oh, this is going to be the comet of the year, comet of the century," and it either fizzles out or doesn't meet the expectations of what it's supposed to, the brightness and stuff.
Yeah.
But every so often you get some really nice ones. Like earlier this year, we had one that was naked eye visible. Which was amazing. And last year too, we had one that was naked eye visible for a couple of days. And those they only come around like once every 20 years or so.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And that you have coordinates so you can kind of get a general idea in the sky where it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I guess more like shooting stars and things like that. Do you find that seeing that through a telescope is often serendipitous, that you just happen to be looking at something in the sky and you see
shooting stars,
a Starlink satellite cross your path or whatever? You're not really tracking an object that fast.
No, they just go right across your field of view, pretty much. The satellites, they move fairly quick, but you can see them going across your eyepiece and going across your field of view. A meteorite, zoom, it's gone within a split second. Like if you're looking in your eyepiece, you're not going to even really see it.
Yeah. Did I blink? Did something?
Yeah. It goes so fast.
I remember messaging you the first time I saw a Starlink satellite, and you said, like, that's normal. It'll be there. Wait, and it'll come back around again. And they
or sometimes there'll be
a
a
line of
train,
them.
a line
Yeah.
of them. You get 6 or 7 in a
Yeah.
row.
And that's a lot more common today than it was, back many years ago. But that's something to definitely keep an eye out for. I want to go to Atlas, but not yet, because I know once we get onto that, I'm just going to be completely enthralled. I've read up so much on it, and there's so much I don't know about it and understand physically about it. But before we go there, I want to go back into, because everyone talks about the moon, everyone talks about the planets. Those are great. But where you really shine and what you've shown me that I never knew about before was more in the celestial body. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some of those targets in the sky that you could look at as an amateur, as a hobbyist. And I don't use amateur as a negative term, but I don't want people to become overwhelmed with how big space is. Because, Mike, by the time we release this episode, we will have moved into a completely different space through the passage of time. And so when I look at the sky, sometimes I'm so overwhelmed with how much is there to look at. What are some areas in the sky that you could say, point here and look at this? What are some of the ones that people look at? The Big Dipper?
Big Dipper is a big one. Everybody knows about Big Dipper. Orion. Orion's, especially this coming up this season, this time of year, Orion's going to be coming up. It's going to be visible almost all, it's starting to be visible in the morning times, but it's going to be visible, upcoming all night.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing, because it's one of the easiest things to see with a amateur telescope. It's a bright nebula, lots of stars. Betelgeuse is also part of the Orion constellation, so that's a big name. Everybody knows about Betelgeuse.
Yeah.
They're waiting for it to explode.
Yeah.
And, it might have exploded already.
Could have.
We don't even know.
Yeah.
That's a big one. You got lots of open clusters, star clusters that you can see. A lot of globular clusters that you can see. The Hercules cluster, M13 is a popular one that's really easy to see with amateur telescopes. The Ring Nebula is another cool nebula to see. Amateur telescopes, that's really easy to see. And just a lot of star clusters that are all over the place. Open clusters.
Andromeda.
Andromeda's a galaxy that's
you're looking at that, though. You're checking into Pleiades. Is that another one that I hear you talk about a lot?
Yep. Yeah, it's a nice big star cluster. That's also called the Seven Sisters, after the 7 main stars in the cluster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andromeda's pretty cool, though. That's 2.5 million light years away. It's our closest galactic neighbor.
So think about that. That's our closest neighbor, and a light year is how many miles? I know you've done this calculation for me before. It's exhaustive.
It is, okay.
It's so many miles that they had to come up with the term light year versus say the number.
Okay, so it takes 8.5 minutes for the light to get from the sun to the Earth.
Okay.
8.5 minutes, and in that 8.5 minutes, that light traveled 93 million miles.
Okay.
So take that by
into a day,
and then multiply that times 365, and that's how far you get light travels in a year. Our closest star, Omega Centauri, is 4.2 light years away.
That's relatively close.
And that's the closest one. Yeah, and that's like your next door neighbor.
We would never be able to get there
standpoint.
with current technology.
Never. It'd take us 10,000, 20,000 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's where you go. There's just space is huge. It's hard to wrap your head around how big that is. And I'm sitting here going, so if the sun went out, we wouldn't even know for almost 10 minutes.
Yeah. 9 minutes later, then everything would go dark.
Yeah.
We'd lose gravity at that point, and Earth would be flung out into outer reaches of space.
Over in many ways. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So these are targets, though, that when we say amateur, what price point do we leave the amateur telescope realm and get more into? I know that's tough because you could buy it on Facebook Marketplace, or
I wouldn't really say there's a price point where you go from amateur to pro.
Is it focal length? Is it?
No, I would say I guess once you get to a certain aperture, which would be your diameter, your size of your scope. Once you get to a certain size, then it becomes more outside the normal realm, where it's a custom made type of a thing, where you don't see them too often. Especially the type of scope.
So a car has an engine and it's got a transmission.
Yeah.
The telescope has the body, the length, the tube.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's got its mount. And
It's
then
got
the mount.
that, but it's got the length, the focal length. It's got the size of the mirror,
Yeah, or the lens.
which is that the
that's the aperture.
that's the aperture, and then the third piece is
Your f ratio.
f ratio.
F ratio is pretty much your focal length divided by your.
So it's
Diameter.
it's the two
Yeah.
together.
But they all have different. It's all for different things because like lower f ratio is better for deep space objects, whereas a higher f ratio like an f10, amazing. You're going to get amazing clarity for like the moon and the planets. You're going to get super details.
Yep.
May not get good magnification,
Uh-huh.
but you're going to get good crisp detail.
Yeah.
The crispness of it's going to be off the charts.
And that may not be what you want when you're looking into the heavens.
yes,
Right? Okay.
Yeah, the type of telescope that you use is all dependent on what you're using it for.
Yeah.
Are you looking at for the moon? Are you looking at planets? Are you looking at deep space stuff? Are you going to be doing more photography as opposed to visual astronomy? So it's all dependent.
So would you say though it's fair to tell someone who maybe has a telescope and hasn't found satisfaction in using it, maybe they're just not using it for the right target?
Yes,
And
the
so
right
to
tool.
consider
yes.
that, right? So because a lot of people that get telescopes probably receive them as gifts.
Yeah, it may not be the right scope for what they're trying to use
Yeah.
it for.
You're staring at the moon with something that would give you an incredible view of something that's a little bit further away.
Yeah, or vice versa.
Or vice versa. Yeah, you're looking at something that just you're underpowered.
Yes.
Got it. Microscopes would be the same way, where a kid gets a hobbyist microscope and it's like there's limitations to it. You can only go so far with that. And telescopes would be, I would imagine,
Equal,
the same.
yeah.
No different.
Absolutely.
So we've got the telescope that I've been describing, which is on a mount, a tripod. if you
Yeah,
will,
that's
right?
it's an equilateral mount.
Equilateral mount, and you've got two knobs on it. You've got one knob that will tilt the tube, and if I'm using the wrong terminology, just correct me. But
No,
the
tube is fine.
it goes
for
like
yeah.
this, up and down, and I can get it to go almost vertical, almost 100%, straight up and down. And then I have another knob that will take it this way through the sky, left and right. And you don't really need to manipulate it by hand.
No.
And I don't think you're supposed to, or you're supposed to really use it.
Unless you're changing to a different object. And
Right.
in which case, then you got to kind of reset it back up for that.
Yeah.
For that next object.
Yeah.
But once you have an equilateral mount, telescope centered on a piece, if you have it set up right, you
And
just
that's
have to turn the two little
that's all
knobs,
you do
and it'll
from
stay
there.
within your view the entire time. It
Because
won't
as
move.
that target's moving, and it will move, everything moves, and then you can just simply slowly dial, and it will move the telescope in the frame.
yeah, it's
really
following the
special.
Earth's rotation pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Because you've said it and you've told it what your altitude was, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that correct? So it knows pretty much how to follow a target in the sky. I don't have it, but they even sell computers that will guide it.
Yeah,
Right, you have that as well. A go-to mount.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are cool too. So if you haven't, and again, this is like the progression of the illness of, telescope.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Once
you
you go
basically,
down, you
once
don't
you
come
go
out of.
down, you
Yeah.
always want more. You want a better magnification.
Bigger aperture.
Bigger aperture. So you have mine, which I like. It's easy to transport. It's fairly, once you've set it, if you're not moving geographically, there's not really any need to do fine tuning. I know you've done some, what is the term for when,
Collimation. Yeah,
What?
for certain
Collimation,
collimation. Yeah.
yeah.
Certain telescopes need the mirrors need to be aligned. Like now, your type of telescope, it needs to be done once in a while, but mainly when it's moved around, jostled around like
throw
that.
it in the car.
But yeah, but if you just keep it on the tripod and stuff, and once it's aligned and once it's the mirrors aligned and stuff like that, you don't really have to mess with it too often.
Yeah. Usually when I see him, I ask him, hey, could you use the laser on it and do that
Yeah.
just to check it? But yeah, I think it's been done 3 times
Yeah,
since I've had it.
and your traditional telescopes, your refractors, they don't even need collimation because they don't use mirrors. It's all based on the lens, and that lens is set in the tube where it's at, and it can't move.
It's not moving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's where I'm at, but now you've got several other types. My favorite one that I threatened to buy is the Dobsonian. Now, the Dobsonian mount, I'll show you a picture of one right here. You have an 8, 10, and 12-inch
12 inch.
aperture.
Yes.
So that is, when you think about the tube of his telescope is now either 8 inches, 10 inches, or 12 inches. So a dinner plate, big
Yes.
view, right? And as you'll see, it sits on a mount that rocks this way. It doesn't go it doesn't move this way. It'll, actually it's almost on like a
It's
Lazy
on-
Susan,
it's on the Lazy
right?
Susan, yes,
So you
yeah.
can move it 360 and
rock it
and
back
rock it.
up and down. Yeah.
So this is like a really significant telescope that you feel you're hoisting it. I mean, it's a really smooth
It's heavy,
moving
too.
but
It's
heavy,
heavy,
telescope. And once you get set on it, because it has such a large aperture, your picture that you're looking at, or what is it that I'm trying to say? Like the
view.
Yeah, you can see a lot. So
details are
if
better
it
and stuff.
moves, if as it's moving, you don't constantly have to adjust it where you have a large point of view frame.
Yeah. Well, it's
No
also
vision.
dependent on the on your eyepiece that you do. Your higher magnification, you're going to have a lower eye relief, and you're going to have a lower field of view. So it's going to move out of the field of view a lot quicker.
And so every scope is going to have that, guys. And you can interchange the eyepieces generally,
Yes.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to need, regardless of if you have a Newtonian, a Dobsonian.
Reflector, Smith Cassegrain, no matter what kind you have, you're going to need different eyepieces.
Yep.
Yeah, at least two.
Yeah.
At least two. So that way you have a wider view and maybe a closer up.
Yeah.
view of
And
things.
I would say get a set where you have 10. And because you'll be amazed at the difference between, just a couple millimeters in the lens size. The Dobsonian is one that it takes up a little bit more space, a little bit more challenging to move, though you move them.
A little bit heavier than, bulky, heavier, but price wise and aperture wise, you get the best bang for your buck for it. And plus, I also think that it's the most kid friendly version.
That's what
of
I
it
was
as well.
just thinking, man, because mine, a kid could knock over in a
You bump
moment.
into the tripod and you got to recenter it.
Whole thing's gone.
Yeah, you got to recenter with your object, with your polar alignment.
Yep.
With the Dobsonian, you bump into it. Okay, fine. You just rock it right back to where you want to
Yeah.
look at, and it's right there.
Yeah, it's a really special kid friendly, because I've seen you'll put a step stool
Yeah.
up to it so that the kid can get up there, and that is a really, really special way to see.
Because it's not your
I love
traditional
that one. That's my
telescope. It's not
favorite,
your
yeah.
traditional telescope where you're looking at the bottom of it.
Right.
With an eyepiece. You're looking at
Yeah.
an eyepiece that comes up near the top out of the side of it.
Way
'Cause it's
better on your
because it's
back.
reflecting. Yes.
Yeah, because I'm tall and I've got a bad back, and when I'm looking at the telescope, if I'm hunched down trying to shoot into the eyepiece, it gets a little frustrating at times.
And that can be another hobby killer
Yeah.
for certain people
Yeah.
too.
Start going. And the other thing I give Mike a hell of a lot of credit for is that you don't get to decide when something is in your view. So I know Mike will say like, hey, 2:35 a.m., there's going to be a great shot outside. Go out in your backyard. And I'm asleep. And if you want to see that shot, like he's talking about, there are times when the
That's the only
clouds will
time you can
part.
see it.
That is when you have the best window to do it. And so that brings me, though, to the Mac Daddy of telescopes. I know everyone has their own, but the C-Star that you have is the third one that I want to mention. And this is one that I'd like for you to take a moment and kind of explain how this works and how you use it, because most people think of a telescope as, okay, mosquitoes are biting.
Yeah.
Kids are tired. We want to go inside. It's cold out tonight.
Whatever
Whatever
a
it
whole
might
bunch
be.
of conditions can be out.
Tell me about the C-Star and how someone could take that and what they could set it up in the evening, and then what they could end up with in the morning.
Okay, well, the C-Star is not your traditional telescope where you set it up and you're looking through an eyepiece and stuff like that. It's a totally all electronic telescope that you run off an app, either on a tablet or on your smartphone, or even potentially a PC. But it's all done remotely, so you don't even have to be outside to run this thing. You can be, set it up outside, get it leveled, give it, do what you need to do to get it set up, and then you can go inside and relax. They even have updates now where you can set what objects you want to look at and pretty much set it and forget it, and have an itinerary for the entire night of what you want to look at, and it'll do its own thing by itself.
Yep.
Film it for an hour, go to your next target for an hour, and do that. And the great thing about this telescope is that they're always updating the firmware for it, and that's always adding new features to it without the having to buy additional equipment.
Yeah.
So they're adding built-in
that.
filters to it
Yeah.
that you don't have to go out and buy. They're adding 4K and better stacking programs to it. where you don't have to go out and buy those additional stacking programs, which you do. If you're doing your own processing and your own photography, you got to do that. You got to buy programs to stack your to process your photos.
So you've got a telescope that is set up that has
It's a big
automation.
rabbit hole. It's a big rabbit
It's a rabbit hole. But I want people to understand what it does, because it will lock on to a target in the sky. So it knows, it's got a clock on it, so it knows what time it is. It knows where the target is related to you. And it will, I want to talk about stacking images, because I didn't know what this was when I first met you, but it take a picture.
Most people say, okay,
Take tons of pictures,
You take
right?
one picture and you got that picture there.
There it is.
Now, a stack picture is pretty much you take the same picture, you take it, say, 100 times, like that.
Yeah. Is it
And-
that quick? I mean, is it taking it that fast?
No, the longer the exposure that you have, the more light it gathers.
Okay.
Your phone or your camera or whatever, your sensor gathers more light.
Okay.
More light means it's going to be brighter. You're going to see more
Right.
things are going to pop up.
Right.
Now, and most people, you can do that with your cell phone. You can set it for 30 seconds and take a picture, and
Yeah.
you might get a little picture of the Milky Way even pop up or something, you know. But the more longer it is, the more stuff will pop up. Now, cameras and stuff have limitations because of Earth's rotation. So you're going to get trailing. You're going to get stars look like they're going to start moving and stuff.
Yeah.
Things aren't going to be points. They're going to be streaks and stuff.
Right.
So the only way to get around that is to take shorter exposure pictures, 30 seconds, a minute or whatever, and then combine all those pictures together to make one super picture that
Composite.
has all the data together.
Yeah. And
So when you see a NASA picture and stuff like that of some galaxy and stuff,
Yeah.
that's a stacked photo. That's
Yeah.
a processed photo that
Yeah.
involves hours and hours worth of data.
this again is how hobbyists get discouraged.
Yes.
Because Mike, so a lot of people will look at telescopes online and they may be able to go to Amazon.com and buy a new one. And that's great. We love it for them if they can. It'll come with instructions, maybe tutorial videos, a cute QR code that you could use. But there's other people like myself that are constantly looking for a value. And so they may look at Facebook Marketplace. They may look at OfferUp. They may look on Craigslist. Reddit also has several subreddits that are exchanging gear, selling gear. That said, there's dangers that come with buying a used telescope.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to just talk about maybe 2 or 3 things that the average person going to look at a telescope for sale that's not new should look out for. Number 1 would be refraction. Tell me a little bit about that.
You want to make sure that the mirrors and lenses are properly working, because that's going to be your biggest cost of it. So if